Hello, weather fans, weather geeks. Welcome to the Tuesday evening election night edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. It's the 5th day of November, and it was kind of a up and down day today. This day started, frankly, pretty lousy with clouds and rain, but it ended up being a pretty bright afternoon, and it was a gorgeous sunset this evening. I captured a time lapse from our Boardman camera facing to the southwest, and I'll put this in motion, and you'll see that was a real beauty with just a few fair weather clouds around. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sunset this evening was at about 5:13 p.m. on average, a little bit earlier if you're farther east over into western PA, but a few minutes later as you head west towards Akron and Canton. But officially in Youngstown, 5:13. We're about a month away from our stretch of earliest sunsets of the entire year. That's from December 6th to the 11th. The sun goes down at 4:53. By the first day of winter, we're actually gaining a little bit of daylight at the end of the day. We're still losing it at the beginning of the day, but at the end of the day, we're actually starting to pick up a little daylight. 4:57 p.m. is the sunset on the first day of winter, and by December 27th, we're back to 5 p.m. And in more dark and dreary news, tomorrow begins kind of the quarter of the year, the 3 months of the year we sometimes refer to as solar winter. That's the 3 months, or roughly 90 days of the year in which we have the least amount of daylight here in the northern hemisphere. The sun angle, the strength of the sun, that's about as it's similar now to as it is during the first week of February. Not a very strong sun, and so yeah, a day like today where the sun was out this afternoon, it was nice to see, but it didn't do us a whole lot of good. The sun's pretty low in the sky now that we're into November. That rain that we had this morning added up to about 1/4 of an inch on average, a little less to the north, a little more to the east, 0.4, fairly common towards Mercer and Sandy Lake. That rain long gone. The sky is clear this evening. Temperatures are dropping quickly with that clear sky. Good radiational cooling night tonight with that clear sky. The clear sky thanks to high pressure, which is centered just off to our west. That high is going to drift across tonight, and a decent day coming up tomorrow. Yes, it's going to be cooler than average again, with temperatures in the mid-40s, but good-looking day. I think there'll be a few fair weather clouds that drift in, especially in the afternoon, but this will be one of the better days of the next week or so. One of the worst days of the next week or so will be Thursday. This is a cold rain coming our way Thursday morning. When I showed you our in-house model here on Weather Geeks last evening, it was showing snow already by the morning. I told you I thought that was too fast. Thankfully, the model has corrected now, and yeah, it's going to be rain for a while Thursday morning, but temperatures will be at their warmest probably first thing in the morning. We'll end up sliding back through the 30s during the daylight hours on Thursday, and eventually from the ground on up a few thousand feet, it'll be cold enough for some wet snow to start being produced. And yeah, I think most of us are going to see some snowflakes flying in the air Thursday afternoon. Now, will this be real impactful for your afternoon, evening commute on Thursday? No, I don't think it will. Temperatures will be largely still a little above freezing. Ground temperatures will not be cold enough for a lot of this to stick on paved surfaces. But still, yeah, there's going to be some flakes flying. Now, this steady wet snow will taper off to scattered lake effect, lake-enhanced flurries and snow showers heading into Friday morning. Now, even though I think the impacts will be pretty low for Thursday afternoon, early Thursday evening, once we get into the overnight and it's dark for several hours and temperatures drop below freezing, any areas of slush, standing water, etc. might turn pretty slick if they're untreated. Again, that's Thursday night heading into Friday morning, so be careful maybe on your deck, on your sidewalk, your driveway, and maybe some less traveled places where, especially if there's a little standing water around, we'll drop down to 27, 28 degrees Thursday night. Could be enough to make things a little bit slick in some spots. Snowfall amounts, I think, are going to be pretty modest. Here's a look at our model spread. You notice the GFS Ensemble, the NAM, all are 1 inch or more. I just have a hard time seeing 1.5 inches in most of our area out of this. I think 1 inch should about do it. Now, there might be a couple of exceptions with the lake effect, especially Thursday night. Could a grand total between the steady snow Thursday afternoon and then the lake effect Thursday night, could someone see 1.5 inches or 2 up towards maybe Kinsman, Greenville, kind of the northern tier of Trumbull and Mercer? I can't rule that out, but that'll be the exception. Most of us, a slushy inch or less should just about do it. Here's a look at the National Weather Service snow odds, accumulation odds, 2 inches or more, and you'll notice it kind of reflects what I just said. Far reaches of northern Trumbull and Mercer, you've got maybe up to a 40% chance of seeing 2 inches. It's not even a 50-50 chance. It's still on the low end, but if someone's going to get a couple of inches out of this, it's probably going to be in places that are used to getting more snow as we get into the winter season, areas that tend to see a little more lake effect. Boy, it's been a long time since I've shown this graphic with this many blue boxes and this many blue boxes that extend down this far. Here's the 15 degrees below average line, and there's going to be a few days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where high temperatures will be as much as 17 or 18 degrees below average. Averages are in the lower 50s. We could even have a minus 20 departure from average if we don't get above freezing early next week. This is a very impressive cold air mass coming our way that is going to last a while, probably at least through the middle of November, and maybe it has some legs all the way into the last 10 days or week of the month. And it is the 5th day of the month, which means 5th day of every month we get a fresh look at European seasonal outlooks. And this differs from kind of what I oftentimes show you in this video, which goes out a few weeks or even a month or so. This captures each of the next 6 months. We're only going to look at the next couple because it's just usually science fiction beyond that. But here's a look at the November forecast from today's run of the European seasonal model. It's pretty much a slam dunk that November is going to be a colder than average month, and we've only had one of those in 2019. It was back in March, and that was just like a degree below average. We haven't had a well below average month in quite a while. Last November in 2018, it was a colder than average month. And actually, if you read my blog post from this morning, cold Novembers are actually pretty common this decade. While many other months have been warmer than average, we've had a lot of warmth. November, the stat is 6 of the last 8 Novembers have been colder than average. And so November's been kind of an anomaly. Most of our other months have definitely been warm more often than they've been cold compared to the average, but November's been an anomaly. So anyway, this is the November outlook, and then let's go ahead to December. Now, you'll notice here this looks much warmer than November, right? Well, this model product has kind of a bias, a warm bias in its graphical output from month 2 and beyond. It can latch on to cold in month 1, but starting in month 2, it almost never shows much blue on the map. So you have to kind of account for that bias. And accounting for that, you can kind of visualize where it's trying to see cold around the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and it has it just a little bit above average down into here in these paler yellows. If you account for its bias, you could argue it's suggesting that a colder than average month might be possible in the eastern U.S. in December, whereas the hot oranges and reds out here, it's a stronger signal for a warmer than average month. I'm not convinced it's a colder than average December, but I also don't think it's as much of a blowtorch this December as it has been in some of our recent Decembers. This decade's been characterized by a lot of pretty warm Decembers. Last year was a pretty warm December, and we had very little snow. My gut feeling is that this December, while it probably is not super cold, it's probably a little bit closer to average than many of our recent Decembers. I'll talk much more about December and the entire winter season coming up in 48 hours on my winter forecast debut. 21 News at 6, but a much more detailed version, kind of like a usual Weather for Weather Geeks, will be posted online, on the website, on the apps, on my blog. You can find it anywhere. That'll probably be online around 7:30 to 8 o'clock on Thursday evening. So look forward to that in a couple of days, and thank you for watching the Tuesday evening Weather for Weather Geeks.